This mall just opened for the day, and the mall walker's hour was just not a thing when I arrived. Maybe when your mall's officially open, you should have more than just one door unlocked. But that's a small thing. Let's get started. I'll admit, I have a bias against Illinois, which is why I haven't covered much there despite going through it twice. I don't hate you, I just hate your region, Chicagoland. But when I pushed myself to go and cover at least one thing, I decided upon the River Oaks Center. Maybe it wasn't the right choice, but it was good enough for me. Let's have a look and see what it's all about. River Oaks Center actually goes back quite a ways to 1966, when it first started out as an outdoor mall with the original anchors, Marshall Field's and Sears. The Edward C. Menis Company also set up a junior anchor at the mall, expanding from their origins in Hammond, Indiana. The mall would also boast a Jewel supermarket, Osco Drug, and even the pre-Kmart era discount store, SS Kresge. The mall would also be spearheaded by KLC Ventures, whom was known for its work with Philip Morris Klutznick. A name that has a lot more background than you realize, but that's a story for another day. This is a rare outdoor mall that would remain that way for much longer than usual. According to historic aerial imagery I was able to find, it looked like a nice place to be in. Edward C. Menis would fold in 1982 and would quickly get replaced by Carson Perry Scott. Meanwhile, J.C. Penney would relocate from Hammond, Indiana to join the River Oaks Center in 1985. This would also bring forward another expansion and the start of the mall's enclosure. Over the 80s, Chicago-based JMB Corp. would have ownership of the River Oaks Center and would overhaul the mall to enclose it. There were even reported plans to bring a second floor to the mall. Unfortunately, these plans never went through, and instead, a smaller scale operation to just enclose the mall would be carried out in 1993. However, it was said that if these plans went through, they would turn the surrounding area into a major business hub for office and retail and would have helped bolster the proposed Lake Calumet Airport, which would have been a few miles north had these plans went through as well. And speaking of, the Lake Calumet Airport was part of a greater proposal for a South Suburban Airport for Chicago, which is a lengthy story in itself. Look up the proposed Chicago South Suburban Airport to learn more. If I could go off script for just a moment, that Macy's we just saw used to be Marshall Field's. Now, I did go in there for a bit, and one thing that stuck out to me is that it is massive. I don't remember if it's 2 floors or 3 floors, but even for a 2-floor anchor, it is huge, and I think I actually got lost in there for a moment. It was weird. Although you might laugh at this now, the renovation was actually a success, and it brought in more upscale tenants, more leasable space, and the size of the mall as a whole would total around 1.38 million square feet. And you know what? Aside from the food court, which clashes with the rest of the mall, I like what they did with it. It isn't flashy, and the kiosks clutter the sight lines, but it also isn't oppressively bland. That and it has a fountain. Fountains make any mall better. I wanted to find out what brought this mall down to a B-class mall. You can see it isn't necessarily dead, and there are stores, and there are people here and there. But where are all the upscale stores? Aside from Macy's, I see a few traditional mall chains and a lot of small alternative businesses. What happened? Well, I checked newspaper archives, and one thing that stuck out to me were the dozens and dozens of thefts reported on. And this wasn't exclusive to the 2000s either. It's been a running problem back to the 80s as far as I could tell, possibly even earlier. It shouldn't surprise me all that much since we're still in Chicagoland. Perhaps the shrink caught up to the stores and they had to close up due to losses. Just a thought. Breaking off from the history again, there's another thing I noticed. Remember the historic aerial imagery I was able to find? Well, something else I noticed. Near this entrance we were just at were a couple of extra buildings. A building hosting a college branch known as Westwood College, and what appeared to be a big box store serving as a junior anchor. Who, you may ask? Well, Historic Street View failed to reveal that answer. But sometime after 2012, those two buildings were demolished. Branding for Westwood College is still here, but that's been closed forever. And finally, one more thing I noticed at that section of the mall are doors for an underground section of the mall. I didn't get it on pics or video, unfortunately, and it's closed to the public now, but I remember peering through those doors, and there were a set of stairs going down into mystery, with just a teacup light illuminating a planter surrounded by earth tones. What's down there? The mall equivalent of the back rooms? I'm sure the real answer is much more boring than that, but we'll never know. Are there any locals that do know what's down there? Do share in the comments below. I am hungry for answers. Enter the 2010s, and in 2013, Carson Pirie Scott and Sears both would close their doors for the last time, with Carson's leaving the mall in January, while Sears left in June. These two hits didn't bode well for the mall, and while checking the mall via Street View, I noticed there used to be a building on the southwest side of the mall that was part of the Westwood College, which was also demolished around that time, as was a junior anchor space next to it. Oh, hey look, I'm sounding like a broken record now. Nonetheless, all of this was going to set the mall back quite a ways. Fast forward to 2019, and there was an announcement to convert that empty space into Southland Live Casino. If approved, this would start with a temporary casino taking over the former Carson's space while a more permanent building is constructed. This would also bring forth a 200-room hotel on site. A final decision was supposed to be made in October 2020 about this, and despite delays, it sounds like that'll still be on the table as of 2021. However, I have not seen much evidence that this is underway at this time. Maybe the locals can update me on that one as well. Although the mall is not quite the upscale destination it once was, it's still managing to hold out with its own niche of customers, though you can see some of the signs that it's struggling. It's not quite dead yet, and it ain't over till the fat lady sings. As of the making of this video, Namdar Realty Group owns the mall, and it's anyone's guess as to what they'll do with the mall going forward. I would at least hope they have a local manager that really cares about this place. But at this time, we can only wait and see what awaits for this mall. Now, before I give a personal summary on the mall, how about an urban legend? River Oaks Center was the site of an urban legend that one of the game cabinets in Friar Tuck's game room was seen as cursed. If you were to play this game cabinet, which was a game called Berserk, you were going to die. 2 people had died shortly after playing the game, but due to separate incidents. However, a third player had achieved a new high score before dying on the spot of a heart attack, allegedly. This wound up being the first record of a death caused by a video game, and I have no doubts the evangelists jumped on this hard. However, the reality of this urban legend, although has a kernel of truth to it, is ultimately muddier and less exciting. But it certainly brought a little notoriety to the game Berserk, for better or for worse. If you'd like to learn more about that urban legend, look up the Curse of Evil Otto. We're almost out of time, so I gotta keep my summary brief. For being a Chicagoland area mall, I ended up liking it. While I would prefer more contrast of color in the architecture, the mall as a whole looks great. Has almost a timeless quality to it, and the fountains are always a nice touch. Not a lot of those in malls anymore. Now, while I recognize it is struggling, I do hope that this mall can find a way to pull it together and persevere on into the future. Thanks for having me, Calumet City, and until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you and the River Oak Center farewell and good luck in this mad, mad, mad world. On the edge of the mall lot is a yellow water tower with a smiley face and bow tie. It's cute, but if you change the context slightly, it can also be very sinister.